What is up, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in to the second official episode of the Barry and Mack Show. The support that we've gotten so far has been absolutely astounding. Really, really awesome to see. Technically, there's been 2 episodes, but the first one was a 2-parter. Myself and Damian considered cutting some stuff out of it and whatnot, but we said, you know what? The conversation just went long, and we broke it up into 2 parts. We did not want to leave you guys without any of that content. So we wanted to make sure that we gave it all to you. Thank you guys for rating. The ratings, the 5 stars, all that stuff helps so much. Just the response to this whole thing has been absolutely incredible. And Damian, speak on it a little bit.
You know what? I'm humble, man. It's always good to see people are responding to our efforts. I want to thank you guys because, listen, guys, we're going to tell the truth. We're going to be honest. We're going to be authentic. We're not going to hold back. Obviously, Sooner alumni, we're going to respect our coaches and the program and the university. But I really feel like the Sooner Nation is looking for what's going on behind the curtain, and they want to know the truth. And so the Barry and Mack Show, our intent is to give the Sooner fans, the Sooner Nation, and anyone else who's interested in what's going on with that interlocked OU, what the past looks like, what the program has done, and what's currently happening today, right? What can the program do to get back to the pinnacle, back to being the blue blood of all blue bloods, which we all know is our amazing crimson and cream.
Let's go. And if you guys haven't yet, please go follow the Instagram. We're working on the Twitter, working on the YouTube. Those will be up. This show is just the clock. Like, we haven't even tipped this thing off yet. We're at the center circle, and the referee has the ball right now. Like, we are just getting this thing going. Please make sure you go follow the Instagram. It's at the Barry and Mack Show. Go follow Damian's page. It's at Dame That Dude, and then myself is at B Wise Fitness, BWISE Fitness.
Hey, let me say something. Listen up real quick. I want to say this, guys. Barry and I have every intent of creating a shirt, man. We want to have a shirt go out, and we're on a campaign, right? The road to 5,000 followers on IG. Our vision for that is to go live once a week and do some Q&A with the Sooner faithful, have guests on with us so you guys can actually interact on that platform. But we got to get to 5,000. There's a rumor going around about downloads, and maybe Barry will speak to it, which is pretty sick. By the way, we just got on here to do this because we have we call it a passion project. But the response has been really solid. What you guys can really do is go on that IG page and get that page to 5,000 followers so we can really start pushing out a lot more ways of delivering the content. So I just want to say that. Shout out to all of you guys. If you on your own IG page, us, hashtag Barry and Mack Show, either or, guys, somebody will get a Barry and Mack t-shirt. We just want to say, hey, maybe you don't want it. I don't know. But maybe somebody does. I want to get that page rocking and rolling.
Let's go, man. So today we are going to do the show that everybody wants. Anytime there's a discussion on a message board, there's a discussion on Twitter, and it is about OU football, and what is going on today. The thing, by and large, everyone wants to know about is strength coach Jerry Schmidt. And and there's been, the stories are out there. People have heard them, and they're great stories. We are going to approach this like fine-tooth comb today. All right. I got some things I'm gonna talk with Damian about, and we are really gonna get into like what is he like and why he brings so much value to the football program that may or may not have been missing. That's up to you guys to decide, but we're going to really talk about that today. First, just like basic news, what's your thoughts on the whole Baker Mayfield saga, Mr. Mackey?
Oh, brother, here we go. You know what, man? First things first, I gotta say this disclaimer. I'm a Baker fan. I mean, obviously, as a Sooner fan, I'm a Baker fan, but I feel like he played the game the right way. I feel like he was a leader of men. Had he been my quarterback, I would have been more than happy to run through a brick wall or whatever I needed to do to make sure that he could get the most out of me as I had to offer. Here's how I look at it, Barry. There's different lenses, right? And I'm gonna go from one perspective, and here it is. Let me ask you a question. Let me pose you a question.
Let's go.
What do we know about the Browns franchise the 3 years prior to Baker Mayfield being anywhere involved with that organization? Would you say on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being amazing, 1 being you suck ass, what would you give them prior to Baker?
Can I go lower than a 1?
Okay, perfect. So you answered the question. You answered the question. How dare that organization who for what, a decade, almost 2 decades, were literally the laughing stock of the NFL. How about the fact that they had lost 27 of 28, something crazy. Like they had won 1 game in essentially 2 seasons prior to Baker Mayfield's rookie year. And here they are halfway through the season. The kid comes in. He changes the landscape of that organization overnight. Whether I'm a Sooner fan, a Cowboys fan, if I'm a Bama fan, if I'm an LSU fan, we all have to agree what that organization looked like. This young college kid comes in there and flat out turns it into a program where in the next 3 to 4 years, they've been to the playoffs. They've won a playoff game. I think they've won a playoff game since the Cowboys. Go figure, right? Mm-hmm. So, kid made mistakes. By the way, he's not perfect. By the way, he's not Russell Wilson. He's not A-Rod. He's not at that caliber. He hasn't earned that reputation. But to act like Baker Mayfield was, I don't know, even mediocre. I get why the media does it, because he's provocative. The media is using his personality against him because when he was a Sooner, he was the guy everyone loved to hate, except who? Us. So now that personality, I get it. They're using it against him. He's on all these commercials, right? He's got all these endorsements, and I understand the pundits saying what they say, but the football people, the fans, like, it tells you how uninformed fan bases are when a guy who took an organization that I'm not even like exaggerating or like this isn't hyperbole. They sucked and like royally were terrible, like laughing stock. And they won a playoff game and they became a winning organization. And they started going and getting Pro Bowl and people wanted to come to Cleveland to play with him. And I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., right? People forget this. Yeah. Okay, I got it. They beefed, but Odell Beckham Jr. was not drafted by the Browns. He was drafted by the Giants and went on to play. Okay, he went to go play with Landry too, but he knew that there was a quarterback in Cleveland that he could be successful with. So as I look at this, and by the way, I didn't even talk about the other half of this, which is, they said Baker had baggage. Barry, they said Baker had baggage. Barry, they said Baker had baggage. And then you attach your wagon to the gentleman who's literally carrying the Gucci store's worth of baggage. Like Watson has the most baggage in the last decade, maybe. And they guaranteed his money. So it's interesting to me. I think it's good TV in late June, early July, when all of the sports are pretty much over and we've just got baseball to watch. It keeps the talking head speaking, but my God.
Like my question is on the move to go get Watson, like in 2022, right? With as sort of aware, let's use that word, aware as everyone is about this, like
woke.
Yeah. Like how is that even on someone's radar? Like, do they not have any women at all, like involved in like upper management or like, hey guys, I think this might be a problem. Nobody nixed this from the jump. And I'll say one, like he is a really good quarterback.
Correct.
But I think between him and Baker, I think game to game, maybe not like you look over a season, how did he perform for 16 games? Watson is a better quarterback. But in a game-by-game situation, it's a coin flip on who's going to play better. There's a lot of Houston fans that were very frustrated with him. I talk with them pretty regularly. There was a lot of fans of the Texans that just, they liked him. They thought he was good, but I don't know if they thought he was going to be the guy, especially when he first started playing. He got better as he went on, and then this happens. I mean, and you've had, since the initial accusations, you've had 2 more come out since he's been there. He's going to be suspended. Name said guy. How on earth did he slip through the cracks?
Yeah, two things that come to mind for me. There's two real issues. And by the way, I'm going to push back on the talent piece. But number one is guaranteed money, right? Mm-hmm. Guaranteed money. I think A-Rod was one of the ones who set the precedent. Or maybe it was Tom Brady. One of those guys set the precedent on essentially the quarterbacks basically firming up their contracts to where they're becoming generally guaranteed. They had all the leverage in the world. He should have been on a performance-based contract and thankful to be given an opportunity. So I think again, you talk about the franchise, no wonder, right? You would never see the Pittsburgh Steelers do that. You're not going to see the 49ers do that, the Green Bay Packers. You're not going to see the New England Patriots go out and guarantee. They're going to say, hey, Watson, bro, we'll give you the vet minimum, and you've got to clean up your act. You got all these different stipulations. And if you do all that, then we'll proceed. So that's number one, right? That piece. Number two is you going back and spinning it to Baker. You just had a guy who going into the 2021 season, they had just come off a season in which they won a game in the playoffs. Week one, they essentially played the Chiefs they should have won the game. They should have beat the Chiefs week one. Baker ends up throwing a pick or a fumble right at the end, but like the punter muffs a punt and then tries to pick it up. Right. So all these things happen. So to my point though, is Baker's hurt week 5? And here he is literally playing 2/3 of the season with one arm and 3 or 4 of his alignment are down. And he's consistently saying, nope, I got to be there with my guys. Nope, I got to be there with my guys. And we all know he's not healthy. And they literally throw him away first chance they get. And then how about like bringing up all this stuff, the baggage that they clearly knew about prior to drafting him. Now they're using it as a leveraging piece to get rid of him. And like I said, the thing that just makes it comical to me is they do the smear campaign for Bake, and then they turn around and they guarantee all this income for Deshaun Watson. Like only the Browns, right? Like I wouldn't even say the Lions are that level of shenaniganry. I'd say only the Browns could do that and not feel like they did anything wrong.
Yeah, like there's people in their management going, you know what? I think we did the right thing. I think we made a good choice, and it's really frustrating to see that. I think the likely scenario, judging by what all is being said, is that he ends up in Seattle, seems to be the general sentiment. And that's probably the best landing spot for him. Pete Carroll seems like the kind of guy who might mesh well with a Baker Mayfield, maybe even more so than the guy that Cleveland's had. It sounds like him and Freddie Kitchens had a good relationship, but he just wasn't a great head coach. So who knows? It's still the Browns are still Brownsing.
They're the Browns. And I do want to say this. I love Baker Mayfield. He's not in Deshaun Watson's league as a talent in terms of quarterback in the NFL. Like all things equal, I think Deshaun's a better passer of the ball today than Baker was. Phenomenal in college. He hasn't shown he can do that in basic drawback. Baker in action is killing you. If Baker has any type of action on the run, or he's coming off some type of a run play action, he's gonna kill you. But just take 3 steps, hitch and throw. He hasn't shown like he did in college that he can make the timing throws in the NFL. Obviously, there's no question about the athleticism. Baker against the best defensive ends in the NFL, 50-50. Deshaun Watson can make any DN in the NFL look silly. And then I think, Drew Brees and Russell Wilson are guys that disprove this, but I think there's something to Baker being a shorter quarterback in the NFL where a lot of his balls are tipped and he may not see something over the middle of the field. I think there's some intangible merit to that per se, whereas Deshaun's a couple inches taller and he hasn't shown through stats that the amount of tip balls, the amount of his size limitations holding him back. So in my opinion, I think there is a wide margin of ceiling difference between Bake and Deshaun Watson. But I also think the Browns could win a championship with Baker Mayfield. And that's kind of been the resounding sentiment around all the talking heads. If you're listening to the ESPNs and the NFL Network and all this, they don't think Baker's a championship caliber quarterback. And I vehemently disagree. Just
that's fair. My only pushback on the gap being as wide as it is, I can't remember just what Deshaun has had there in terms of coaching. Houston's not really anything I pay a whole lot of attention to, but Baker's been through multiple coaches. He has not had the opportunity to settle into a system. I don't know if they've had the right guys around him for what really makes him excel as a quarterback. Like they really leaned heavily on their run game, and that obviously helped him. But when it came to the passing game, that guy, like in situations where you roll him out and you give him a chance to read what's going on, his feet are super like lightning quick. He can throw well without setting that base. Like he's a solid thrower outside the pocket. And it does not feel like the Browns, it maybe got better under this last guy, but it does not feel like the Browns gave him a long enough rope and being in that system long enough to see if he would develop. Nor did they seem like they tried to build the roster around him.
Agreed.
So
I agree with that. And I'll even go further to say I think the Browns didn't have enough cojones to check some of the guys who were against Baker and kind of left him out to dry more than once, between the Odell Beckham issues. Even when what's the name of his first coach that got fired, and they kind of like left it up to Baker to like, how you leave the second year quarterback to have to address all these concerns about gosh dang it, what's his name? He was the OD
Lou,
yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Dadgummit.
Hugh Jackson.
Hugh, not Lou. Yeah, Hugh.
Man, they kind of left him out to dry, and that deal was he was set up to fail from the beginning. But you're right, he had management that believed in him. That management was no longer with the team. Baker needs to be a big enough man to know that's how the NFL works. The new guys are coming in; they're going to bring in their own regime. Yeah, go to Seattle and kick ass, right? Go to if he can get well, he's not going to probably end up in Carolina, but go prove it. Baker's got the talent to do it. I got faith he will.
Yeah, there you go. So OU fans love them some Baker Mayfield, so we had to absolutely make sure that's in there. And I love me some Baker Mayfield. The guy was just, what he brought was just that'll be a long time before something like that is ever seen again. I don't know if anything like that could ever be done again. Just all of the perfect kind of lightning in a bottle scenario that had to happen with the walk-on and getting the extra year. It was just a perfect storm of legendary stuff that I don't know if that'll ever be matched. All right, so we're going into some Schmitty talk. And I think Damian is the right guy to ask. He's had firsthand experience, and the way I kind of wanted to format this, being a personal trainer, strength coach myself, having worked with teams and athletes, I'm going to try and give some insight into the how and the why, but we're also just going to get some good stories out of it. Here's some of the wild things that Mackey has gone through and what the players are going through right now. It's summer and they are getting down into it. So I think the first question, and we kind of covered this in the first pod where you talked about Coach Blair Prince and sort of what you got when you transitioned to Stoops, and then of course Jerry Schmidt that he brought in. What time of year did he arrive? Do you remember the time range?
100%. Oh, do I remember? I'll never forget. Are you kidding me? Listen. All the homies, we have a Facebook group. I know we're old guys, right? We have a Facebook group, but everyone to a man has nightmares about Jerry Schmidt. And by the way, Schmidt, if you ever hear this, we still love you, bro. So Bob obviously comes in after, 98 season. We're all thinking that Jim Donning's coming from Georgia. There's all these rumors going around about who the next coach is going to be. And then boom, Bob comes. And they're redoing the whole athletic wing or the football wing of the stadium. They're in these portables. So we see Spurrier, we see Gundy, we see all these guys start to come in. And we're like, damn, like these are names. These are people, Spurrier Jr. People knew who Coach Spurrier was. Gundy, people knew Gundy was a Jackie Shipp. Like we're like, holy smokes, they're putting together a staff. And then we get the announcement, Jerry Schmidt. And we're like, who's that? Like, he was a name that none of the guys that were more in the know of college football really knew about. We're right at the beginning of the spring semester. And like I said, we have that meeting. I'm at my locker. I walk in on time. He's like, if you're on time, you're late. I'm the first guy. If somebody ever had a trivia game, who's the first guy to do a Stairmaster for Jerry Schmidt? It would have been Damian Mackey. By the way, the only time I ever did Stairmaster, just so everyone knows.
Let's go.
And so, but no, brother, I'm hearing the rumors of OU off seasons. Winter conditioning, right? And so they're telling us, oh man, we got to do this road climb and we've got, bear crawls. And so the older guys are telling us what they went through and, oh man, it's hell. You got to get up at 6. And as a high school kid, we never did that, right? We worked out after practice or on Saturday mornings. So I'm already like, okay, this sounds scary. Barry. So Schmidt comes in. And the day he talked to the team, hey man, when we work out, I want to make sure everybody looks uniform. We got you guys these new shirts. So we had a new shirt and it was a white shirt and I forgot what it said. And then we had Oklahoma Grays. These are shorts that these are like 5-inch, bro. These are like, they call them Hoochie Daddy shorts. I don't know if you guys are aware of the whole Hoochie Daddy phenomena 2022 summer. Oklahoma Sooner Athletics gave out Hoochie Daddy shorts in 1998, man. So we've got these 4 inches or 5-inch short. They're like underwear essentially, brother. That are training shorts. So he's like, I just want you guys in your grays and your white shirt, and I'll see you guys in the indoor. Back then they didn't have the Everest. It was only the old indoor track stadium or track field, whatever they call it. Field house is what they call it, the track field house. So we Barry the first day. So we go in the field house, right? Boom, we're in that thing, and he lines us up. Hey, I want to break you guys down between offense and defense, and then by position group. So we're in this room, and we're all just kind of like, all right, cool. And then, okay, here we go. We're gonna just do a quick jog. We're gonna get you guys nice and warm. We're gonna get everything started. So we're just kind of like, okay, a quick jog. So hand down. By the way, someone needs to make a shirt. Someone could make millions of dollars if you just made a shirt with Schmitty's kind of like silhouette with a whistle, and all it needs to say is hand down. If you say hand down to, I guarantee you, any Sooner alum, if you just put a shirt and it says hand down, they know, it's nightmares, brother, your nightmares. But we're running this deal. We're just going across the field and back. So we do it the first time. Right. Say, hey, we're just going to get a good warm up. Boom. We kind of like warm up. Like here, we're doing like, you do flying 40s and you kind of like roll into it and you're kind of just like, whatever, good form. And so we get down to the other side. And then when we get down to the other side, he blows his whistle hella loud. And he was like, what the blue, 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 what's that? And we're all kind of just looking like, what's going on? When I say we're getting a warm up, he said, okay, that's what you want to do it. 14 seconds for receivers and DBs, 16 seconds for running backs and backers, 19 seconds 18 seconds for D-line, 19 seconds for O-line. So we're on the second rep and we're coming back. So now we got a clock. Like, damn.
Oh,
so
man.
Barry, we run, I don't know, maybe 16 of these. So 14 seconds isn't sprinting your hardest, right? But it's not chilling. You gotta open up. So I think we run 16. What do you think he says after that?
Need to do some more.
He said, now we're going to start the workout.
Oh my God.
The entire team is I can't think of one person in that gym who was okay. And so he's like, okay. So he wasn't playing when he was saying we're warming up. Like that was the warm up. He commenced to putting us through an hour of hell. That day we started a tradition, which I don't know if he did it after we graduated, but whenever we did sit-ups, when we started the sit-ups, when we had to do sit-ups, he was like, guys, we're going to eventually get to 1,000 a day. This crunches. He was like, we're going to eventually get to 1,000. And we're like, 1,000. He was like, yeah, we're going to do 1,000. So he said, we're going to start in increments of 50. And so that day we did 200. And what we would do is we do 50 straight. And then he'd blow the whistle and we get 20 seconds and we couldn't put our feet down. So we'd have to hold our feet with our hands. And then we do 1 foot straight and 1 foot in our chest, right? So one foot's in your chest and 1 foot is about 7 inches off the ground straight. You got to flex. It's got to be fully straight. And then you switch legs. And then the last 50, you'd cross. Right? Yeah. So that's 200 crunches, and we couldn't put our feet down until we got through with the entire set. How long do you think it took us to do 200 crunches that first day?
Man, a while.
We probably started over 10 times.
Wow.
By the way, it doesn't matter if you're on 141, 141, 197. If we're at 197 and JT Thatcher puts his lay down, by the way, I'm saying JT because he was a culprit. JT, if you ever hear this podcast, you got to own that, brother. JT was a usual suspect for we're at 196 or something, and JT's got to put his damn foot down. And because he did, the standard was you didn't finish the set. We went back to 0.
Wow. I wonder whenever I hear stuff like this, I often wonder where he picked that up from. So do you have any, so he was at Notre Dame, I know, like late 80s, 90s.
So he won a natty in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He won a natty in Nebraska. He won a natty in Florida before he came to OU. So, I mean,
man,
lots of places with an opportunity to pick up that winning tradition and standard.
Yeah, because it's interesting because this is where experience comes into play when it comes to coaching athletes, is that the science of training and the science of sport probably says the doing the 1,000 sit-ups in that exact way. It may not be, it obviously will get your core strong, but there may be other viewpoints on how to better accomplish that. But from experience, he was able to learn that not only is this accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish by strengthening their core, getting them strong, but there's also such a team building and camaraderie aspect to it that there's more being built than just your abs, so to speak, right? That there's this aspect of making the team get through something that's super difficult. And I'm not going to tell you the best way to do it. I'm going to make sure that you have good form. I'm going to make sure you're doing things right. It is up to you guys just to figure it out. Like, I'm hanging you out to dry. Accomplish this, or you have no choice, right? It's got to get done. So from there, figure out where you need to go mentally and just do it. And that is so valuable in the fourth quarter of a football game.
You know what else is valuable? When you got 85 scholarships. Let me tell you, so it was a business decision and it was a chemistry decision. Barry, that year, and I'm probably exaggerating just a tad, but I'd say 20 guys on scholarship, they either just left, never came back, were removed for disciplinary reasons, which means they couldn't meet the standards, or like they were like, I want to transfer. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say 20. And so I say that to say twofold. One is the chemistry piece. Like you said, we didn't know it. And I was talking to a gentleman the other day and I said, I got to tell you, they were talking about, I don't remember what it was, but the context of the situation was I hated Jerry Schmidt when I was at Oklahoma, but I respected the hell out of him. You know what I mean? Yeah. I never anticipated our relationship to be buddy-buddy. And he never gave me the notion that we could be buddies, but he always made it very clear what his expectations were. And when I met or exceeded them, he gave me the proper amount of praise. He pushed us to a point where we felt like there was love. Like, I don't think I could ever question that Jerry Schmidt loved us. He did. But he knew he had a job to do, and Bob made it clear. Like, this is what Bob said. Bob walked into we got in trouble, and Bob walked into the red room, and he said, "Hey guys, who knows my title?" This is verbatim. Who knows my title? We're all like, you the head ball coach, HBIC, and he's like, "Yeah, my name's Bob Stoops, and I run everything in this program." And there was a long pause, and he said, "Except Jerry Schmidt." We're like, "Oh." He said what Jerry said goes. And so here's my point. Bob did a great job. See, I'm a grown man now, and I'm looking at it from the lens of running a business. Here's what Bob did. He essentially put himself in a position to take on a team that he didn't recruit. And he says, hey, the guys who buy in, I want to be the good cop. Right. I want to be the guy who sings their praises, who builds culture, who builds community, all that good stuff. And I'm going to be very clear in telling everybody else that Jerry Schmidt is the bad cop. So if you get on Jerry Schmidt's bad side, I'm not saving you. That's what he was telling us. And we didn't necessarily articulate it then. But in retrospect, looking at it now, I'm like, that was genius, because most of those guys quit. Bob probably had to kick off 2 or 3 of them. The other 16, 17, 18, whatever the number was that eventually transferred out or whatever, they did it on their own, which means on the business end, what did he allow himself? More scholarships. Yeah. And so now he put himself in a position where he could recruit a Quentin Griffin. He could recruit a Derek Strait. He could recruit Josh Heupel from Snow Community College, right? So now he's putting more bullets in his gun, and us as the holdovers from Blake and the other coaches, I think maybe one of those classes were recruited by Schnelly, I believe, but it put us in a position where we had to buy in. You know what I mean? And so, listen, we would meet and be like, "Yo, we were like, is this typical? Like, is this how it works?" And the guys were like, "No, we've never done anything like this before." And then you got guys like Trent Smith and says, "Yeah, well, maybe this is what is required to win," because Jerry Schmidt has won everywhere he went. By the way, one correction: Jerry Schmidt went to Nebraska. He didn't win a natty with Nebraska. He was a student at Nebraska. He won a natty with Notre Dame and with Florida.
Okay. And that's so we talk about the experience factor being a Florida. You got to think too, like the Spurrier teams after Schmidt left, you felt that there was just a little something missing, because I don't know if people who either haven't had an athlete in their family, been an athlete themselves at the Division I level, Mackey, I don't know if people understand just how much time is devoted to football and getting your body right, and how much time you spend doing that throughout the week. Like what did that look like for you at that time?
Man, I tell you, so I think the context on like my first football experience, I only played football for Bob and Jerry. I didn't play for Blake and Prince, right? I was coming in off a torn ACL, the whole 9. And so the difference between what I had to do to prepare myself for high school football, and then the difference between what I saw the team do when I was, right there watching how Coach Blake and Co ran the program versus what I experienced, it was like apples and doorknobs. It was like I couldn't even express what we were being asked to do, and how it impacted my body. Like that first week. So we did that workout I was telling you about in the indoor, and then we go inside the weight room. And there was an old tradition at OU when my freshman year, when I was a redshirt, Blair Prince would have a bucket. He said, "Hey, it's not uncommon for the freshmen to throw up their first time," right? Like that was like a kind of a ha he he. I probably saw 50 guys throw up with the Jerry Schmidt workout, and non-freshmen. And by the way, sometimes week 4. You know what I mean? So like you're in the program you're in the 4th week of the cycle and you threw up week 4. It's not like it's your body's so out of shape that you throw up. I've experienced that and I wanted to, and I never threw up, but I felt like I needed to. No. I'm not talking about that. What we were asked to do, and someone asked me this the other day, Barry, the best way I could say it in preparation or getting my body prepared is every week we were tasked with a workout that was going to stretch our limits to the brink of. And then what you learned is at the end of that week, you either did or you didn't. And guys like myself, and we'll go into that a little bit later. You either did or you didn't, right? You had a choice to make it or not make it. Well, what do you think happened the next week? You would think the next week it would taper off. You would think the next week it would kind of like, I don't know, maybe what you did this week would make next week easier. It was never easier. It was never easier. Like the way Jerry Schmidt would tailor the workouts, you conquered 2 6-trippers and you did it in 1 minute and 30 seconds. The next week, you got to do 3 6-trippers in the exact same time with less rest. And it's like, that doesn't make sense, but it's mental, right? Your body can do it. You just are mentally in a space where you have got to train your brain to not accept what you think reality is, essentially, right? Like in your reality, like, no, I can't do this. but your brain has to go somewhere else and just trust your body. And so I think that's what we started to learn about ourselves, is the guys who could just trust their body, or really trust their mind, I guess, get their mind to move their body. Those guys started to excel.
Wow.
And so, yeah, listen, 5 a.m. workouts, 6 a.m. workouts, class for 4 hours, film for 2 hours, practice for 3 hours, and then train for another 45 minutes. And then you might have to do an evening lift if you had certain things that you needed to hit. That was the norm, right? I think 80, 90% of colleges, that's probably something around. But like you said, the first time around, it was the execution. Jerry Schmidt's execution and his ability to maximize the space and time that he has to his disposal, you're going to be in prime shape. But mentally, I would say, in retrospect, looking back and reflecting on those times, like, man, you have no idea how mentally strong we were. And there's a word that I like to use called positive paranoia. I think paranoia is a bad thing when people are generally paranoid, that's not good. But a case of positive paranoia, I think there's a little bit of some secret sauce to that, because it puts you in a place of just enough anxiety, but also a lot of confidence. And so I think he did a really good job of mixing that piece and putting us in a position to never be comfortable, which is when you start to lax off and be lazy.
That's interesting. So, and that the ability to be able to do that, and obviously do it safely, where you don't have guys, getting injured right on the spot, or, God forbid, somebody goes down with something serious.
Right.
That is something that just takes time and know-how, because in the strength world now, like, one of the common ways that things are programmed is using what's called a high-low CNS model. And OU kind of use this. So throughout the week, when you execute a workout, your central nervous system gets taxed. Like, if the work is high enough, you're moving enough loads, you're doing enough stuff, you end up with just fatigue of the entire system. And the theory behind that is that you're not going to perform optimally if your central nervous system is so taxed that, a weight that you moved last week for 3 reps is a struggle for 1. It's like, well, my CNS is rocked and I'm not going to be able to do it. Okay. So what they deployed now is, like, Monday would be like a high CNS demand. So it's a lot of work. You're lifting a boatload of weight. You're doing it for a lot of volume. And then that next day, low CNS day, doing a little bit less work. It's a little more ballistic in nature. And the pushback from coaches is that, no, you guys are Division I athletes. You can handle more work than that, right? We are leaving so much meat on the bone. And the science behind training would say that this sort of high-low CNS model is great. And OU may be using some of that right now. Like, just because you're more of a traditionalist with how you approach strength does not mean that you don't utilize the best, most current science. Like, OU is top notch when it comes to that department. And I got to see a little bit of that. We just kind of sidebar, in 2019, right before COVID, I actually went and there was a NSCA clinic at the Sarkeys there, and a lot of coaches and PTs and just different people. A lot of people from Tulsa drive down there. You get your continuing education credits and you get to learn a little bit. And I talked with someone just about, what goes on inside the program from just a sports science standpoint. It was really interesting stuff. But this is stuff that you only learn, what Schmidt is able to use. You only know how much is too much, right? And how much is not enough from doing it, right? And from doing it and getting a certain result, right? So the one knock, but one that really stands out with the previous regime, and I'm in the most respectful way possible, the previous staff had not had a single first through third round offensive lineman taken in the NFL draft, like not one, for his entire tenure as a strength coach.
Wow.
And that's being at Texas. That's at Texas Tech. That's at Oklahoma. Like not one that he worked with specifically.
And the kids he inherited who were Jerry Schmidt guys, they were 4 in 1 year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That crew, those guys, man, that's an indictment. And I think that further confirms what I said the last episode about Link got to pick his ingredients. So we'll see how good his food tastes in the years to come, having picked those ingredients. Hey, let me ask you a question about that, because back to Schmidt, I don't want to talk about the Tybo guy in SoCal. I want to talk about Schmidt. When we would train, right? So his Schmidt would flat out tell us, like, guys, here's the deal, right? There's 7 days in a week. I want you guys to give me 4. And right. And then of those 4, he was very intentional and specific how he did it. So generally on a Monday would be an upper body day. Like you said, we go heavy load. We would do cycles. So it might be week 1 and we're doing 60% at reps of 10 or 12, something like that. Right. You know, if my max was 225, 12 times, he might have me at 185 for sets of 12s week 1, but he'd go upper body, lower body. And then on Wednesday, we wouldn't lift. And Wednesday we'd have a team run. Right. And so we knew how to handle our pain. That's what it was. It was 8 weeks of pain. Right. So we'd go Monday, Tuesday, Monday, upper body, Tuesday, lower body. And then Wednesday, no lift. It's a 45-minute run. It's all conditioning. It's mental conditioning, right? It's running up a hill with a sled. It's running up the stadium ramps. It's what Smitty could take 20 yards and turn it into hill. Then and we generally do it Wednesday morning. So then you got all the rest of the day off, right? And then Thursday upper body or lower body, and then Friday the opposite. And then of course you'd have Saturday, Sunday off. So and you're, you know, with your professional eye, I don't know anymore. I was just doing what I was told. You know what I mean? Like we weren't in there really. We didn't have a lot of input when it came to how they designed the athletic science program for us. We weren't in that conversation. But what we were very privy to was, look, go hard these 2 days, and then you're going to kind of get a midweek vacation. And then I need you to go hard for me for 2 days again. And then you're going to get a 2-day vacation. Like that's how we that's from our lens. That's all we looked at. Maybe we were the grunts, you know, maybe we were like the Marines, right? Who are in World War II. And we just kind of, but like, that's how we approached. Okay. We got to win these 2 days, and then we'll have 45 minutes conditioning, and then we got a day off, and then we got to win these 2 days, and then we can go to the lake Friday afternoon and be back, you know, Sunday afternoon to prepare for Monday. Like walk me through. Like that's the crew level of depth we were exposed to, and we accepted it, and damn it, we thrived. At the end of the day, we thrived off of that. Talk to me about that space.
Yeah, so that's interesting, and I don't know if this kind of like discussion has been had on that. So what that does is kind of throws in the face the people who maybe say that some of his, you know, methods are like archaic, or they're you know, they're not rooted in, you know, what we would consider sports science. Like when it comes to training, you want the person you're training in that window that you're working with them to be as clear-headed as possible. And one of the things that really helps with that is narrowing what the objective is, right? So I might go into a session with somebody and say, all right, today, this is our big squat day. And regardless of what we do, like, well, we're going to get warmed up, we're going to get mobile, and then we are going to squat. Your focus today is to move as much weight as you possibly can during the time that we are working that movement. Anything after that is going to be gravy, but I need you to mentally get right to know that you, when you get under that bar, whatever's on there, whatever we decide to put on there, and that's kind of a thing in and of itself, but whatever we decide to put on there, you are moving it. And there's not really, the reason you do that is just a mental trick, right? It's a little bit of psychology, and what he was doing, or at least what it feels like he was doing, is knowing that by setting the table where you guys understand that if you can give me these 2 days and put everything you can into it, you're going to have the ability to get that recovery, to not necessarily take a day off, but you're going to have the ability to not have the demand be quite so high on this day. But the trick is though, but you've got to give it on this day when I ask, right? It's like, trying to think of a good analogy, but the goal is to get you to focus so strongly on these specific tasks at hand. And you do that by painting it in this picture of like, all you guys got to do is give me 2, right? All you guys got to do is give me 2 super strong days. And then everything else, you guys will be able to handle it. No big deal. So mentally, that's something that like I use variations of that when I'm training people. It's all about just setting the table of trying to put them in a mental space where they're going to get the most out of that. Because when it comes to training heavy, when it comes to actually increasing your rate of force development, improving your power, so to speak, that requires heavy loads. That requires a lot of effort. That requires the full demand of your body, especially if you're trying to do it in a short time span, right? In the window that you guys have before you play spring game, in the summer, before you get into the fall, which, there's ways that like a summer is programmed where you're kind of peaking as you get into the season. Like that is all like thoughtful work. And whenever you have your big days or your high demand days, you have to have an approach that allows you to get the absolute most out of those days. And if you don't, you're not going to see improvement. You're not going to get stronger. You're not going to get faster because you're not giving enough effort. You're not putting enough in to create that adaptation that has to happen for you to be able to compete on Saturday at the highest level. I had a quick question for you kind of going back, because I know we kind of discussed the shift from defensive back to receiver. Was there, when that happened, right, could play in defensive back in high school, could possibly play in defensive back in college, but receiver ultimately at OU, was there a body change or things physically that you had to adjust when you got to Oklahoma, or were you really not thinking about it in that regard?
It's an interesting question. Yes. So I come in as a DB, myself, Curtis Fagan, Andre Woolfolk, Will Barty, and Brent Jackson. They recruited 5 DBs, 2 junior college, 3 freshmen. And of course, Roy's a safety. John Connor. John Connor's a safety. Roy's a safety. We come in, mind you, I'm coming off a bum wheel. So I tear my ACL in December, state championship game, De La Salle at the Oakland Coliseum. I'm at OU in August. So 9 months later, I'm there. I come 60%. So my first body's change, and shout out to Scott Anderson. By the way, I think Scott just retired after the spring, man. He's been around OU medicine forever. He was the head trainer. Jim Hillis, those guys, they, God dang, what's Dawson's first name? I forgot, but I think Dawson's the head strength guy at K-State. I'm pretty sure he is.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he is. Because he was one of the guys I thought would be a good, like when they were searching for strength coaches, I thought he would have been a good fit for OU.
Dawson was a beat. By the way, Dawson's Schmitty 2.0. Dawson was Schmitty before Schmitty. Dawson was the pit bull of Blair Prince's staff. Dawson was my personal designee that season. So I didn't know this. Scott Anderson told me a funny story. Barry, check this out. So I come in on a bum wheel. I'm 9 months out of surgery. I didn't tell them that I went to Hawaii like 2 weeks before I came to OU, and I jumped off a cliff, like jumping off like waterfall kind of a thing, and I hurt my knee again. So I get to Oklahoma and it's swollen. They're like, bro, when did you have surgery? I was like, I had my surgery in December. They're like, well, why the hell is it swollen? I didn't know. I didn't know that. I was kind of telling on myself, but I never told them I re-injured it. So I get in and they're like, okay, you got to be in the training room 5 a.m. every day, such and such, such and such, such and such. Scott Anderson told me like my junior year, he was like, Mackey, you do know we tried to run you off. I was like, what? They were like, yeah, we were trying to get you to quit. I said, Scott, you can't. He's like, Mackey, I'm dead serious. He said, man, I'm glad you're a little tough SOB, because they were making me do craziness, but I was just so adamant about coming back. My body didn't feel normal. I had lost a lot of weight that I had gained between my junior and senior year in high school. But so that part, I needed to just get my body back in a position to competitively compete at a level I had never competed in. So that was number one. But then John Blake's fired. Bob comes in, brings Mike Leach. In the DB room, 99, there were 7 scholarship DBs, and then there were the 3 freshmen. All right. And you ready for this, Barry?
Mm-hmm.
On offense, there were 2 scholarship receivers returning.
Wow.
And we got Mike Leach coming from Kentucky, right? So we all knew about Kentucky because Kentucky had just beat Florida when they had Tim Couch and the rest of those guys. So I'm sitting in the DB room, and Bob was a DB, and of course Mike and those guys were all defensive guys. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, there's Will Barty, there's Brent Jackson, there's Pee Wee Woods, there's Mike Woods, there's Rodney Rideau. Like, I'm just counting all the DBs. There's Cedric Stevens. I'm like, dude, and then there's me, and there's Curtis, and there's Andre Woolfolk. And I'm like, I'm looking at the receivers, and there's literally Jerome Jackson and Ahmed Kaba. So in relation to my body and what I needed to do, there was just a separate expectation of receivers. And the beauty was Andre Woolfolk has the best feet I've ever seen. And by the way, Andre Woolfolk went to the NFL and was head and shoulders better than everybody else on his team in the NFL. Like, Andre Woolfolk's a freak of nature when it comes to COD. There was nobody else close to me. Andre was better than me, and then it was me, and then it was bring on whoever. Like, wow. Mark Clayton and those guys came around and they were solid, but like, they couldn't break our records. And so asking me how I had to change my body, I never really, when I was a DB, I was just getting my body in position to play football again. Sure. When I became a receiver, I saw the distinct differences in which the weight program and then the expectations on the field when we're doing any type of field training, CODs, whatever. He had an expectation because I used to, like, when we would pull sleds, they had to pull 10% more than us. I'm good with that. I don't want to pull 245s. Give me a 45 and a 25. I'm good. Those guys had to pull 245s, and then, but then when we would do cones or ladders or whatever, take one false step, Mackey, and see what happens. If I would have took a false step, like, Schmidt would go crazy. Mackey, you're being lazy. I know you didn't. Like, he would know, like, you don't take false steps. So like, it was that level of like, bro, get it together.
Yeah. When that expectation is so high, I don't know if people understand how much footwork is just such an integral piece to playing receiver at that level. So one of the neat things that I think you can glean from what you're saying is Schmitty really developed and honed the parameters for which players need to be able to perform in the drills. The time stuff is it's not necessarily brilliant because a lot of people do timed work, but being able to prescribe it properly is where the brilliance is, right? Being able to go, all right, receivers, in order for us to get a certain result on the field, I know from past experience, you've got to be able to do this, this, and this, right? Your times here need to be this. This is consistent with what so-and-so at Florida did, and so-and-so at Florida was a second-round draft pick. Like, you need to be in this parameter. Obviously, talking about Woolfolk, just, from memory, who were some of the people just at various positions that you remember? We've heard a lot of the horror stories, but who do you remember as time went on really excelling and maybe even potentially seeing playing time where there wouldn't be playing time when you guys were going through workouts, especially leading up into like that first season, then 2000 as well. But who do you remember seeing where how they performed in those workouts really had an impact on them playing?
First would be a guy by the name of Roger Steffen, Oklahoma kid. He's older than me, grown ass man, but he played the same position as Brandon Moore. Brandon Moore was a big time recruit out of New York. He was a lacrosse player. He was the centerpiece of Rex Ryan's 46 defense, middle linebacker. Bob, and by the way, 6'3", 240, can run a 4.6, 4.5, 4.55, 4.6 40 stud. Played like 7 years in the NFL, played for the 49ers. Well, one off, see, he wasn't the most conditioned guy. Strong guy, cock strong, he could lift, all that stuff. But just Schmidt's standard of his workouts, Roger Stephan was a 6'1.5", 220-pound linebacker. I think he went to like El Reno or one of those, UConn, something like that. He was from one of those schools. He was a senior my sophomore year. The year we won the ship, he was a senior. He played 70% of the snaps at Sam Becker because of Schmidt in offseason. And by the way, I don't think the guy played a down of football after, we beat Florida State in January of 2001. My story, switching over from DB to receiver, we go into that spring after the offseason. First day I look at the depth chart, my heart's broke. My heart's broke because Brandon Daniels switches from quarterback to receiver. Bob and Schmidt recruit like 3 track guys from the track program to come play. So there's a guy by the name of Michael Jackson and these other guys that are now playing receiver. Kurt and Woolfolk both took the same advice I took. JT Thatcher transitioned from running back to wide receiver. And then we recruit Antoine Savage and Antonio Perkins and all these guys. So we're going into spring. Barry, I'm 4th string. Oof. I have never in my life, ever in my life up to that point, not been like the focal point of an offense. Like never. Like it was, and it wasn't an ego thing for me, but like I was like, okay, got it. So we go into our first scrimmage. I'm 4th string. And they just said, we're going to play the first 3 strings. Everyone else, we'll try to fit you in is what happens. So JJ's 1st string, JT Thatcher is 2nd string.
Okay.
Michael Jackson's 3rd string. And then I'm 4th. So JJ's a senior, JT's a junior, Michael Jackson's a senior. I'm a freshman. Right. So I'm looking at the depth chart. I'm like, these guys are grown ass men and seniors and whatever. Right. JJ goes. By the way, JJ's a stud. He's been around the program. He's a receiver. He played about 10 years after, Arena 1, Arena 2, whatever. He's coaching today. He's actually head coach of a program in Texas, I believe. So Calb is at Z, JJ's at X, Brandon Daniels at H, Josh Heupel's at the Q. So he goes out there and they call whatever they call, but he don't know the tech. Like he looks rough around the edges. And I see Jerry Schmidt walk from the side because they generally on the side with the yard markers and the coaches are usually on the home side. So Jerry Schmidt walks across the formation or walks across the field and I can see him go to Spurrier and Jerry's kind of talking and a play later. D-Mack. I go in and I'll never forget the play. So I'm like, damn, they're probably going to call a run play or whatever. So I pretty much, I don't know how many plays I'm going to get. They called H flip 96 Z post. H flip means 3 receivers to the strong side of the formation. The rest of that is telling the lineman the protection. All I knew was 96 meant I had a 13 to 10 yard curl. And by the way, that play is designed for the X receivers. So he calls the play. I'm like, oh man, this is my chance. And for some reason, Hype's in. Maybe it was the ones. I don't know, but Hype's in. Hype's the Q. We run the play. BD runs the 5-yard out. He takes the flat defender. And maybe Curtis or whoever's the Z runs the post. They take the safety out of the play. The corner's playing deep third. So all I got to do is run my depth, get him out of his hips, turn around. Like I should expect the ball. The play is exactly as designed. They're running a cover 3. Roy buzzes the flat, takes the flat defender. Whoever the deep safety is, Rodney Rideau takes the deep post. And whoever Cedric Stevens or whoever it is playing deep thirds. I push his outside shoulder. He has to open his hips. I stick my foot in the ground. I turn around and the ball is halfway to me already. I caught that ball and got busy. Took a couple people. And so, hey, I wish I had the film, man. It's like a movie. Every time I think about it, like it's a movie, bro. And so from that day, that one play, the next scrimmage, they did the depth chart and it said Jarrell Jackson or Damian Mackey. And then it said JT Thatcher and then it said Michael Jackson. And JT didn't like being, he was 2nd string or whatever. So JT moved to defense. True freaking story. So, Schmidt would always remind me, I saw him do it. I'm sitting on a knee because we would all just sit 5-10 yards behind the plays.
Yeah.
The receiving groups and the DB groups, whatever. I saw him walk across the field and go talk to Spurrier, and probably a play or two later, hey, Mackey, T-Mac, get in there. Or they call me Mack Attack. Spurrier with his Mack Attack. Get on the field. And you get one play, man, you got to go make a play. And so that was my, I thank Coach Schmidt because that offseason, and I probably should have brought this up earlier, B, he gave out these shirts. When you would do exceptionally well for a week, you got to get this black shirt. It said something. I forgot what it said.
Sure.
But here's what the black shirt meant. The black shirt meant, so we would do conditioning with the coaches for an hour and 30 minutes. And then we would do conditioning. I used to always be like, that doesn't make sense. Like, we just conditioned for 90 minutes. Why are we conditioning again? Like, this is hell. Like, we would all be like, this doesn't make sense. And every coach would have their own station. And by the way, remind me one of these days to talk about Jackie Ship's station, because his station for a decade after I left, everybody knew about Jackie Ship's station.
Oh, wow.
But if you got the black shirt, you didn't have to do the team conditioning. Oh, that black shirt was worth $10,000, bro. Forget nil. I didn't want a nil sponsorship. I wanted a black shirt because that black shirt would protect my ass from having to run 200s or 3 trippers or whatever they were. And I got my black shirt like probably second. I think Dre and Rocky Kalmus may have gotten theirs first. And then the second time around, it was like me and Trent Smith. I had to race Roy. To get my black shirt, I had to race Roy. But that's my thing. Like, if they would have told us to lift weights, he'd kick my ass. If they would have told us to pull a sled, Roy's kicking my ass. But I'm like, oh, we doing a COD drill? I roasted Roy.
I got him.
I was like, let's go. So I got my shirt before Roy got his shirt. And man, we got to drink Gatorade while the rest of the team did team conditioning after the hour and a half of conditioning, which was crazy.
What kind of weight was Roy moving in the weight room?
It's crazy. By the way, we got to get him on here. Yeah. Roy will tell you, Roy and I were probably the same strength until his junior year. Roy was probably underdeveloped. In fact, I'll just tell the truth. In high school, he didn't lift at all. We'd go in the weight room and Roy would just sit on the steps and kind of like whatever. He cleaned. Roy was a monster cleaning, a monster. He didn't like squats because he always had a bad back. He didn't want to bench. He had long arms. But, Roy was probably throwing up 275. You know what I'm saying? Sets of 4, sets of 2, 2 to 4, 2 to 5 in the bench. And then on squats, I squatted 465. Roy was probably squatting five plates and a 10, 5 plates and a 25. I mean, plenty strong.
Yeah.
He was just naturally through the hips, just ridiculous.
Yeah. And he played like that strength translated so well because he played so low. Like, one of the things that made him so good, that this is like where what you do from a strength and performance training standpoint translates on the field, is that you could tell someone, play like Roy. I need you to attack at this level. Like, I'm going to coach you. I'm going to coach these skills. You have to specifically have a body built and honed that you've worked on. There's probably stuff that he did that he didn't even realize, back in grade school and high school, that was preparing his body to be able to play like he did. But he was able to have so much power and play low, but on balance. And that one of the reasons he was a monster hitter is he got his body so horizontal with so much speed. And a lot of guys, and he still, the reason you see a lot of missed tackles when guys kind of dive at the feet.
Right.
He was so exceptional at that because when his feet left the ground, it did not take long before he made contact with you. Do you know what it's probably in the combine too. Was he a good jumper? Like, did he have a good vert?
Oh, yeah. Roy could dunk basketball as a sophomore. Roy was probably 36 and a half. I mean, he wasn't jumping through this. He wasn't jumping out the building, but sure. I mean, 6'1", long arms, 36 and a half, 30. He may have done a 37. He ran 4.43. People piss me off with the Roy story because I get it. Bill Parcells put him as a deep safety like 7 years later when he probably should have been closer to the box, and Jeremy Shockey and those guys got busy. But Roy was the best safety in the NFL for 3-4 years. And that's all respect to Ed Reed. Ed Reed continued to get better, and then Roy started to taper off, and then Roy got lazy his last couple of years, and he'd tell you, I think he would tell you that he got injured too. But there was a time where this is when Lynch is finishing up his career, Dawkins is finishing up in Philly, and Ed Reed, Roy, and Palomalu are really the three emerging safeties that are taking on the torch. And a kid named Adrian Wilson from he played for the Cardinals. He was maybe a couple years after Roy with Sean Taylor. Roy was better than all of them for about a 3-year period. Pick sixes. He was a monster in the run game. He 4, 5, 6 interceptions a year. You know, he was really playing the position he played at OU. He played the overhang. He was playing the Sam backer over the slot receiver. And then Parcell comes and makes him a real. By the way, Roy never played deep safety. Never for OU. Never. He didn't play that position for you. He played the nickel, and he didn't play safety in high school. I played safety. Roy played corner in college. So Parcells put Roy in a position that he literally never played before. And, of course, he lost some of his dynamo impact in doing that.
What an interesting, like, that's talking about what he played in high school and going up. Like, that is the specific development, like the playing the corner position in high school and having experience there allowed him to get skilled. Absolutely. Playing in space. He could cover a slot, could cover guys coming out of the backfield. Like I think people forget he closed the distance playing in the secondary much better than this idea of like, he was just a hitter. Like he would bang at the line of scrimmage. Like that's all he was. There were multiple plays where, cuts in on a ball on an out route where he's got to make up 10 yards really, really fast. Like he was a good accelerator. Usually guys who are great jumpers a lot of times or have a really solid vertical are also really good accelerators. And in his case, really powerful hitters. So to kind of go back just a little bit with Jerry Schmidt, we've kind of talked about winter, spring. When you guys got in season, what did you all change, or did anything change when you guys?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. First things first. Coach Schmidt, if he hears this, he'll be pissed. There were a couple of times in the season because Bob would be like, "They're done." Coach Schmidt would be like, "On the line, hand down," and we're running, and Coach Smith's trying to prove his point. There are times Bob would be like, "Jerry, they're done," and Jerry would blow the whistle, and we get to go in like, "Hell yeah!" Like we'd be
saved by Coach.
But no, yeah. So interesting enough, very scripted schedule. Summer we called it 4x3s, 4 lifts, 3 run. Or excuse me, 4 lifts and 5 runs. So 4x5s. In season, we would on Mondays we'd watch film for about 4 hours. We'd only practice for about an hour and a half. So we'd go in and do an extended film session because we're generally watching the game, and then we are watching film on our new opponent, and then we're doing an install. We go out in the field for about an hour and 10 minutes maybe. And then we'd have a true conditioning. We would do 4 gassers or whatever, right? We got in trouble more. If we had a good game, he said, "Hey, we're going to limit," it would be kind of like your traditional high school in season, kind of a conditioning on Mondays.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesdays, we would condition. We condition Monday, Tuesdays, but on Tuesdays, we would also do 4-minute drill. And so we'd have the team set up, the one offense against the 2 defense, and we had to go the length of the field, and we'd have a running clock. And if we didn't make it, we had to run, right? So like if we scored, we wouldn't have to run 2, but if we didn't score, we'd have to do the drill, and then we'd have to run. And then the one defense would do that against the 2 offense. So we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. We're practicing a 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, and it's 100% conditioning. Like every snap, let's say we throw a 50-yard pass, we only get to go 5 yards, right? So, okay. That was a built-in conditioning. And then on Thursday, we did it again. The 2-minute drill, 4-minute drill, but we didn't have conditioning, and then we wouldn't have to run at the end. It would just be like, just getting the extra work in, getting the conditioning in once again. But Barry, in season after Tuesday, we're getting our bodies right to play a football game on Saturday. We go pretty hard Monday. We Tuesdays were always funner because we were doing the drill and we try to kick the defense's ass. Wednesday, our only conditioning was good on good. like that. We were getting our body conditioned to play Saturday football games. So we'd play, it was a blitz. We didn't call them session period, blitz period. So blitz period would be a 20-minute period and it'd be ones-on-ones, so we practiced against, I saw Torrance Marshall and Roy Williams and Rocky Calmus 2 days out of the week. When we would do good on good, it would be our offense against our defense. So they wouldn't be a look team. But sometimes we would do good on good and we would run plays that the other team was going to run, or they would run a scheme that the other team was going to run. But it was very important to Bob and to Schmidt that like we got to get a real representation of what a game would feel like before the game. And I know Link didn't do that. I know we're talking about Schmidt and that, but I know the last 6 years, they didn't do a lot of good on good anymore. We did a shit ton of good on good.
So that is interesting because one of the things that when it comes to performance training that is so vital, you will not, regardless of what someone believes, how much they think that they're going to rise to the occasion, how much they think, oh man, once the lights turn on, I'm good. And maybe there are like rare exceptions to this rule. But by and large, if you do not practice it, and if you do not practice it as if it were a game, and you don't move at the same speed, having to think mentally just as quick as you would in a game, having to do this under pressure, having under duress, it's not a perfect scenario where you're having to do well. You're having to do well under stress. If you do not do that in practice, you will 100% not do it in a game. So when you take away the good on good, or when you take, any type of training that you're doing and it's not done game-like, at least certain points, doesn't all have to be that way, right? There's learning aspects, there's slowing things down, and you can utilize that. But if you don't have at least some of that, when you get into the game, and maybe this kind of tells you a lot about what went on, when you get into the game, your body's just not ready for it. Mentally, You're not ready for it. You haven't had a chance to like really sharpen that sword in a way that emulates as much as you can what it is going to be like on Saturday.
We saw it the last couple of years, and our guys, I mean, that's the only hypothesis I can come up with as to why Kansas can play with us. Or in the first quarter, we're getting beat up by a Texas Tech or a West Virginia or a TCU. Like how? And by the way, we weren't perfect. We damn sure played down to the competition when we played OSU. Again, I would digress by saying Josh can't throw the football. He was legit. Like he couldn't throw the ball 25 yards. But there is something to be said about every Monday and Wednesday, I have to mentally prepare myself to go block Roy. And let me tell you, he's the hardest person on the team to block. Roy was unblockable, more so than Rocky, more so than T. Marshall. Roy was unblockable because he was cock diesel and he was as quick as us. I could beat T. Marshall or Rocky or one of those guys to the proper shoulder, and then they'd have to either go through me, which effectively I got the block, or they'd have to go under me and then I'd kill their angle. Roy, he could move at you in a tight space. And so in games, I firmly believe one of the reasons I graded out so well was because I went against Roy twice a freaking week. And it was, I gotta tell, it was hard. He would listen. It's one of my best friends in life. He was the best man at my wedding. He'd kick my ass a lot of times, but damn it, I'm kicking your ass too, bro. Like you know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna go home and make fun of me because he'll go home and giggle. Mackey, blitz drill. So I had to make sure I won my fair share. Yeah. But on Saturdays, it put us in a position. I gotta block that. Like they were talking about this kid, KU Craver. I spoke about him a little bit last week, but he was an All-American DB for Nebraska. And all week, they just KU Craver. They just kept bringing him up, KU, whatever. Right. And they had a guy named Ralph Brown and Mike Brown who were both NFL guys. They were safety studs. I think Ralph Brown had just gone to the league and he was on the Bears. He played for the Bears for about 6-7 years. Mike Brown had 1 year left and KU Craver was the young pup. When I tell you we were so sick and tired of hearing that name, KU Craver, that week in practice, that we Buddy didn't finish the game. Buddy, the fourth quarter, if you go watch the film, he's subbing himself out and they're putting in some other kids. Granted, they're down by 21, but Nebraska had a reputation back then of like they played bell to bell Well, he rung the cattle bill, and Buddy went down the bench because we took it personal, man. And so I believe a lot of that can be attributed to going against JT Thatcher, going against Ante Jones, and of course going against Roy Lee consistently in practice. And Barry, to take it back to the point, one, Jerry got those guys ready to play ball. Roy and Jerry Schmidt were tight, but two, Coach Schmidt created that mentality. Bob did too, but Jerry Schmidt was the foundation of like, who's a dog? Like dogs were created in my era in the training sessions, whether it be in the weight room or on the field. Like, we had guys we had a guy named Julius McMillan. Julius McMillan was from Altus, Oklahoma, went to K-State. By the way, big time recruit, left the state to go to K-State. He played with Mike and Venables and those guys in K-State. Well, when Bob and those guys came, Julian transferred. And he didn't get that first off season with us. So he didn't really know what we went through. But he was, by the way, 4'3", like 4'3", strong as us, strong guy. He's smaller than us. He's probably 5'9", 165. We were 5'11", 6 foot, whatever, 190. I played at 5'11", 190. He was probably 5'9", 165, but I mean, cat quick. And he played my position. And they brought him to take my position. He was supposed to be the slot after Brandon Daniels left. Well, he didn't have no dog. He didn't have enough dog in him. He'll tell you to this day, he just didn't go through what we went through. And him having to block Roy was just like, he'd be like, Coach, I can't do it. He would mentally go to a place and be like, I don't want to. And so he didn't consistently see the field, even though he was a phenomenal athlete. That was the intangible that a Jerry Schmidt brings to a program that I anticipate a Jerry Schmidt brings back to Oklahoma with Brent Venables this upcoming season.
When you guys went into the weight room, when you guys obviously are sort of a year to year assigned coaches or put in groups, what were like some of the groups that you remember? How were guys kind of segmented? Were all offensive linemen together? What was your general?
Yeah. So the logistics of lifting and workouts, by the way, winter was different than summer. I'll do summer because it was very close to in season. So there was a 6 a.m. group. And then there was an 8 o'clock group, 10 o'clock group, 12 o'clock group, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock. There was an 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then 1 o'clock. And then the 3 o'clock group was makeup. All right. So the groups were broken down. 90% of the players lifted with their obviously their position group and the opposite. So 90% of my time in the weight room and 90% of my time on the field was with receivers and DBs. Right. Let's say a guy was an engineering major, or like me, I was a business major. So I had a couple classes that I had to do at certain times because there were less offerings. Yeah. You might have a backer with us, or you might, like linemen. We generally didn't have linemen. It sucked because they wouldn't get real rest, because rest was like when the other group finished, you back on. So like if you were a singleton, you were kind of screwed.
Oh man.
Lifting. So lifting, coaches would always put a same thing. Receivers and DBs would lift at the same time in the weight room, but it would generally be like me, Kurt Fagan, and Dre, because we were fairly strong receivers. And then like it would be like an Antoine and a Mark Clayton. Those guys they couldn't lift what we could lift, but I couldn't lift what Josh Norman and Ante Jones and JT could lift. Yeah. So here's what happens sometimes, Barry. Let's say, and then you'd have a coach. So like we would be with Dawson, and then another guy would be with Coach Bird, and then another group would be with Coach Schmidt, and then another group would be a Coach Ed, and then another group would be a Coach Hill. Like those are the strength coaches when I was at OU. Coach Hill, Coach Ed, Coach Bird, Coach Dawson, and then Schmidt was the head guy. And Scotty Volak came at the end. I think Scotty's still there. Let's say Dre had a class and Kurt was hurt. So I'm by myself. Coach Smith, hey, Mackey, come over here with us. Well, I'm with Josh Norman, Roy, and Ante Jones. I got to do their lifts. Like, coach. Like,
oh, man.
I can't do 265 for sets of 10. Ante over here doing 265 for sets of 10. Roy struggling, but hitting it because he a big, strong cock diesel dude. Josh Norman can hit it. Coach ain't taking the weight. Coach Smith ain't taking that weight off. Like, Mackey, you better hit it. He would literally prefer to to spot me
through the 265.
Then so like, ooh, don't play because you fooling on getting the wrong group. Same thing happens on the field. You running sleds. Get the sled Roy running with. And see, it's a different weight on his sled than my sled. And so, again, but we used to think it was stupid. Like, why does he do that? That's dumb.
Yeah.
What he's doing is, one, standards. Yeah. Like, we're not dropping the standard. But also, he's proving to you that, like, he wouldn't give us a lineman where it's 3 to 45s on there and I can't even pull it, right? He was kind of just taking us just a little bit further than our comfort zone and saying, just for one day, get it done. And generally, we did.
Which is totally fine. You know, that's really interesting because, and it's also giving you, instilling confidence, you know, in the weight room, instilling confidence for you as a player. Like there's a lot of strategy with that. And like, he knows what you're capable of lifting. Like he knows where you like actually are at, but there's also value in occasionally having, you know, a few of those days where you're with this group, right? What do you feel he gave you in terms of taking on beyond like your experience at OU? Like, do you feel that you still carry a lot of just, I would say, values or just mindset? Do you feel that that has been something that has impacted you years and years later? Or, you know, what do you think there?
Man, Barry, Bob taught me how to win. Jerry Schmidt taught me how to persevere. Ooh. I have used the term Schmitty-built. So I spent 11 years in education, 4 years as a teacher. I taught math and econ, and then I became a principal for 7 years. And then now I own my own insurance agency. We're 4 years into being entrepreneurs. But I have probably used the term Schmitty-built a couple thousand times. I don't always reference the meaning behind it and provide the context, but either consciously in my own mind, I'll say, we got to be Schmitty-built. And people are like, what the hell is that? Or subconsciously, I will remind myself what I went through in those summers, because what you never forget, and I'm not even going to laugh this time, but what you never forget is a Monday morning, you wake up and you're in the 8 o'clock group, receivers and DBs are 8 o'clock. And you get to the indoor, or you get to the duck pond, or you get to the stadium, or you get to the practice fields. And Schmitty says, all right, guys, today we got 4-6 trippers and your time is 125. I can remember it like it was yesterday, because in my head, I'd be like, how the hell am I going to do 3 of these at 125? I can't I couldn't do 3 last week. So I couldn't do 3 at 130. Why do I got to do 4 at 125? Like, I'll never forget it. And it's funny. You can ask any guy, I promise you, because we're in a face group. There's like a couple hundred of us. And it's been 21 years since I played for Schmitty, 2020. It's been 20 years. We still talk about it. And so on one side of the coin, Barry, it's something that it was, it was traumatic. It was traumatic. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It has to be traumatic if like 20% of the guys quit. You know what I'm saying? Like, legit, people quit because of Schmitty, legit. So it was traumatic. But on the other side, it has opened up doors for me in terms of my own self-belief. Like, I was in my professional career, all right, I was the youngest African-American principal in my county. I was the first in my school district to get a principalship without the credential. They gave me an internship and you start to just figure stuff out.
Yeah.
You just start to believe like, yes, I can. Instead of people saying, no, I can't, you start to believe like, yeah, I can. And consciously it happens, subconsciously it happens. That's a residual impact. The same way the kid who's sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, playing whatever Xbox or whatever PlayStation is out these days, wonders why, woe is me, my life sucks. Well, you know, you're sitting on the couch doing nothing all day for 11 years, right? You shouldn't expect to have a bunch of great things happen when you put in the work and you don't mind doing more than what you think you could potentially do. And then you surprise yourself and exceed that. You know what I'm saying? There's something to that for sure. Man. For sure. There's something to that.
That is incredible. Just here's the plan. I need you guys to follow the plan. Sometimes the plan will change and you've got to be able to handle that change. sometimes the plan is going to feel impossible. You've got to make possible what seems impossible every week. Yeah.
I carry that with me forever, brother. Forever.
That's amazing. Well, what an interesting person to be able to just have in your life, just something that you can draw from. So each week, Damian Mackey and myself, we're going to go over the position groups at OU. Last week, we hit the receivers. This week, we are going to take a look at the running backs, the guys toting the rock out of the backfield. Got a few guys coming back. Got a few incoming guys. Mackey, just your first initial thoughts on how the running backs, or I guess your past thoughts, how the running backs looked last year. Well, what was your assessment?
I felt like Eric got a short end of the stick in the sense of he was in an offense that was a shell of itself. I watched the kid's film, and the kid, in my opinion, is a plus back. I don't know if he's an NFL guy. I don't know. He'll determine that with his merits this year. But I felt like last year he was underutilized. I feel like he was misused in a lot of instances. But tabling that, I'm a what's our kid's name? Kennedy KB.
Kennedy.
Stud. We'll see how Kennedy does on the next level. He's obviously not the best athlete in the world, but he's a ball player. Like you just can't have enough ball players. And the numbers he put up, his yards per carry, the yards after contact, and however fast he is, he was always fast enough to make it to the end zone. Kid had a ton of 40, 50 yard plus touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's a Sooner. I'm really intrigued by Marcus Major.
Really?
The size, speed, explosiveness ratio. I think he's more explosive than what's my guy's name? Thunder and Lightning with Mixon. God, I'm getting old. He plays for the Bengals with Mixon now. Stud at OU. He has a single rushing record for a game.
P. Ryan.
Majors is more explosive than P. Ryan. Majors is not a guy that defenses are going to be able to just arm tackle in the third and fourth quarter. And the particular offense that we run now with Levy, I am very intrigued to see how he will lean on people. Well, we're going to listen. I didn't love the GT deal the last couple of years. To me, it prevented too many natural run through lanes for backers and edge defenders to come and blow the play up. We're gonna go back to a power scheme. And when all of our linemen are moving one way and you got one guard blocking down and double teaming on the nose or going to the next level on the backer, it's going to be trouble. The Kansases, I guarantee you this, we will have 200 plus yards against Kansas. We will have 200 rushing. We will have 200 plus yards against Tech. The teams we're supposed to out athlete, they're not going to be able to I can't fathom how Kansas bottled us up that much. I can't rationalize it. I know what we're going to be running this year. That's not going to happen because the linemen are going to fire off the football, and we're going to go back to a concept where sometimes linemen will block down. There won't be natural run through lanes. There'll be a couple, we'll do a double team when we run power, and then we'll go up to the backer. But Majors fits that mold. If he's prepared mentally, kid's going to be a difference maker. I think he could be an NFL guy depending on what he does. Not to say Gray can't, but I think Majors has a huge opportunity. And then, of course, the kid who came in for spring, it's freaking stud. Oh, yeah. I'm really excited about. He is the proverbial, I think, back of today. Multi-purpose, all-purpose, catch the football in space, and he's got a little lean and wiggle to him. He's a true freshman playing in the spring game, and he just has a wiggle and a lean that, you either got it or you don't got, and he has it. And I'm excited to see him come out and really make some waves. He
plays so forward and so low. Which is, for a running back, that's what you want. I feel like for Gray, one of the things that he was not able in that offense last year, it felt to like make one cut and go. There were multiple times where he had to sort of see what's going on and then just create and find the space he needed to attack and have to be patient in a way that probably wasn't his game. Like what Tennessee did for him and like running quick hitting stuff or getting him out in space where it's like one cut and go. he excelled the most out of that. Like his cut, like off his right, I think that's off his right foot, which is like a go-to for him. And he'll need to kind of play with that and have a counter to that, because it seems like something he really reverts to, because it's very good. I can't remember if it's left or right, but either way, he really leans on that. But having something where he can get downhill fast, big deal. Gavin Sawchuk is the other guy. I don't know if I assume he's there for summer.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, what do you think of him? Do you have any opinion?
He's a track guy.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of his film. I'm a stickler on high school running backs because most schools put, the fastest kid with just any type of vision in that position. He comes from a really good program. He broke some records from McCaffrey. So, he's got some pedigree. His style of running back is one that I've seen be successful. It's just not my favorite, right? So if you're asking me my favorite, my style of running back is a guy who gets in the mix. And I like a guy like a Tay Barnes. I like Javonte Barnes' style where he can mix it up and then accelerate when he needs to. And he's really doing a good job of reading his linemen's backs. And he's on the proper shoulder. So when the backer comes, he can, that's the kind of player I love. Gavin, you just give him a crease and he's out of there. So there's definitely a place for Sawchuk. I think that he'll come in and have success. I do think there's a higher potential for him to not be successful because he's a little stiff.
Yeah.
He's a little stiff, and just the jump from high school to college, Tay Barnes came in and played well. Not that OU's got the best defense in America, but you can already see the kid's going to be able to play on Saturdays.
What do you think Murray brings to the table as a coach when it comes to working with those guys?
Yeah, you know what? So when I'm coming up, Spurrier comes to us, and we didn't know, but he was a nobody, but he had the right name and the respect. And like I said, they got Jacquez Green and Rydell Anthony and Ike Hilliard. These guys are all first-round draft picks in the NFL at that time. So Spurrier got clout. He immediately got clout because his dad was, the fun and gun deal out there in University of Florida. I think DeMarco has he got a lot of things working to his advantage. Number one, he's a alum. Number two, not only is he alum, he was an NFL game-breaking difference maker. I think he still holds the rushing record for total points or total rushing TDs, one of the two, right? So he came and played, and then he went and got a check. And when he went and got a check, I think he was the rushing leader in the NFL one year. So, yeah. He's at his alma mater. He's a young, charismatic guy. He's kind of quiet. I've met him a couple of times. He's not one of those guys that's overly over the top with it. But when you are a recruit, he naturally checks a lot of boxes. Can he get me to the league? Does he understand that perspective? What's his pedigree of backs? He's already starting to show a pedigree on his own of not only coaching the guys that he had when he got here, but now he's going out and getting some big fish, right? By the way, the kid that they just recruited, what's the kid's name that we just recruited?
Hicks.
He's got some natural it. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a 4-star by the end of his season, just because of the team he's on. He's on a really good team, and one of the Denton Geyers, or I don't know which one he's on. But back to Murray. Murray is quickly becoming a household name of not only production, but also recruiting. And like I said, if I'm a kid or if I'm a parent and my kid's getting recruited to OU, there isn't one glaring area where I could say, that's a red flag. He played. He got there. He's a Sooner, so he has loyalty to his home. He's building the pedigree and getting skins on the wall. He's going to be a top 5 position coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on and become an OC or something if he wants to.
Interesting. Did you think there was any chance he was going to leave when Riley left?
Only if he had to. I would have been extremely surprised if he chose to leave the way Riley left as a Sooner legend himself. I didn't believe he would leave just because it would ruin his reputation in the place where he's a living legend, man. So for him to stay was kudos to him.
Awesome. Well, guys, I think that about wraps up this week's pod. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We said earlier in the pod, trying to get the IG to 5,000 followers. That would be absolutely beautiful. At the Barry and Mack Show, we got so many things we're working on behind the scenes, trying to make some stuff happen. We are so excited for the potential for this thing, what it already has become, then also what it's going to look like in the future.
Yeah, I just want to say, hey, man, this is fun, man. I love doing this. We've got a million stories to discuss. We've got a bunch of guys already like, hey, man, I want to come on the show and obviously provide their own perspective. Interested to know if anybody has a talent in making T-shirts. I want a shirt. I'm a T-shirt guy. I work in an office where I got to wear suits fairly often. And when I don't have to wear a suit, I'd like to wear a shirt. So if someone has a skill in shirts, right, please reach out offline, DM on IG or on the Barry page, because I'm actively looking for someone who can help in that regard. And maybe there's something in it for you. We'll see, right? But no, guys, we super appreciate you guys. This is something that's, although it's fun, we really want to take this thing seriously and provide you guys a really quality product that Sooners can be proud of. And I just want to say thank you again, man. It means the world to us to see that you guys are responding the way you are.
Thank you so much for listening to the Barry and Mack Show. Please make sure that you go to iTunes, Spotify, everywhere that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps grow the show. We'll see you all again next week.